Counsel for Kiel Sampon. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I'm going to reformulate my question. Do you agree that being a chief and taking advantage of one's position in order to have relations with women was considered moral misconduct?
Please rephrase your question.
Maybe the third time will be the right one. Do you agree that it was forbidden to take advantage of one's position to force women to have intimate relations with you?
Yes, I agree with that.
Et est-ce que dans
And during the training or during discussions you had, were these topics that were discussed? Was it said that it was necessary to have proper moral conduct when one had some kind of position?
Yes, we were told that during the meetings, and that the lower level had to respect the upper level, so on and so forth.
My question was a bit more specific. What I was saying is that when one was a chief, such as a commune chief, was it necessary to have good moral conduct and not to use your position to put pressure on underlings, in particular to have intimate relations?
Yes, that is correct.
vous avez évoqué
Often during your interview, you spoke about Say Sen. And I understood that you met him in your commune, that he was a young boy you felt sorry for and who helped you. However, and that's my question, I don't understand exactly where you met him, or if when you met him he was detained at Krang Tachang, or if he was simply a neighbor of yours.
At that time, I just returned from Prey Kaduit on my motorbike, on my bicycle, and I was told that Soi San was a boy belonging to the soldier, and that he was at the detention center. And later on, I made a request, as I stated previously, made a request to the committee, because he was too young to know anything, and I was afraid that if he continued to be in detention, he would be in a life-risking situation.
And when you said that this happened when you returned to your commune on your bicycle, and was this after the 17th of April, 1975?
When San was in detention, it was not in 1975. However, I cannot recall it precisely, but it was not for sure in 1975 when I met him.
So we agreed that this happened before.
Yes.
Et
And after 1979, did you see him again?
Did I see who?
ជួបសែនហើយជួប
You talk about seeing Soisan?
oui, c'est ça.
Yes, indeed.
When I went to live at Anlong Veng, he was into this sawmill business. He cut wood and he went to Anlong Veng, so I asked him to cut some wood for me to build a house. And I met him rather frequently. And when I was interviewed, Soisan came to my house too. So in short, I have met him rather frequently. And there was nothing to hide.
Now I would like to speak about Pichnil, whom you speak about before the co-investigating judges. And I would like to ask for some clarification with regard to what you said during these interviews. My first question: in your interview E3/72, at answer 62, I'll read the question, free translation. What did Chim do then? And you answer, Chim was the district chief who was working in the district committee under Chim. He was in charge of security. Chim did not know the Krang Tachang Center very well, and he left the district in 1976. End of quote. Can you tell the chamber what you meant by Chim did not know the Krang Tachang Center very well? What does that mean exactly?
That's what I learned through my conversation with Chim. Chim was at the district level. And before him, Nhieu was the district secretary, but he died in a battlefield in Takao. And then Chim rose to become the secretary. And in 1976, Chim was not in Tramkot district. He was at a rubber plantation at Chamka on Dong. And then he went to another rubber plantation in Chup, near Krait and near Mimut. And I think I already stated in my statement regarding what you just raised.
Thank you for this clarification, and I'll get back to that. My question was more specific. What makes you say that Chim did not know the Krang Tachang Center well? What do you mean by that? Why did you say that? He didn't know how the center operated? Can you be a little bit more specific about that?
In the district meeting, he said that he was not familiar with that center. However, in fact, the district had the direct supervision of that office. And all members of the district committee had to know about it. Though some people would have to deal with it directly, while others dealt with it indirectly, the district committee had to know about what happens there. they had a role in it, so they had to know about it.
So it is because Chim told you that he did not know the center that you said this. You said this in relation to what he told you during that meeting. Is that the case?
Yes.
Et est-ce que vous vous rappelez
And do you remember when this meeting happened? Was it in 75 or in 76 before he left?
When I attended the meetings at District 105, that is Tram Quoc District, my participation ended by 1974, because by that time I was transferred to Kampong Speu. I did not have anything to do anymore with Tram Quoc District. And that happened in 1974.
So if I understand your testimony, Chim left in 1976. He said he went to a rubber plantation. Is it the same rubber plantation where you worked later on?
I went to the rubber plantation. As for him, he went to another rubber plantation in Chup. So we were in different locations.
à la réponse
At answer 63 of this same interview, you say that it is that Chim was replaced by Kit. So did Kit remain at the head of the district until 1979, until the arrival of the Vietnamese?
Big Kut was the elder brother of Big Jim, and he became the chief. However, I did not know when that happened, and later on when he died, I learned that he died.
So you don't know if he replaced his brother immediately after Chim's departure?
I knew that in 1976, Kut came to take control of the district. I was at the cooperative, and when he went there, then I was asked by the cadre to make coconut juice, or to prepare coconut juice for him, and then I learned that he was the one in charge of the district.
And do you know Tassan?
I don't know which son you are referring to.
ce serait un SAN
A son who apparently held a position in the region, either at the district level or at the commune level. Does that ring a bell?
No, that doesn't ring a bell.
Je reviens toujours
Let me get back to Chim. In your interview, E3, 5522, E3/5522, at answer 47, and you say the following. As Tachim had no chance of getting a high position because he was a former official, which means that he did not entirely trust the revolution. End of quote, free translation. When you say that he had no chance of obtaining any kind of high position, but being a district chief, wasn't that a high position in itself?
I refer to the trust or the confidence by the revolution. I said so because Chen was a former teacher, and that he was considered a petty bourgeoisie and in that category, and that he would not be used to represent or to be the right-hand man of the revolution. He would only be used for other non-essential tasks. For instance, in plowing the field or in working the rice field. Although he was working at the district level, he was not fully trusted by the revolution.
So I understand from what you're saying that this was the case for you as well. Yes or no?
Yes, that is correct.
ដូចគ្នាខាងជាពាក់
Because we were connected to the previous job or profession that we held.
And this will be the last point I will focus on. When you speak about P, who was in charge of Krang Tachang, can you tell me when he started working at Krang Tachang? When did he take charge of the center? You say that he stayed there until 1979, but I don't exactly remember when he started.
When I was transferred, that location was not yet a detention center. It was still part of the commune. And then when it turned into the detention center, he was appointed to take charge. And then that belongs to the district. And there was another person by the name of Dutch who was also working there.
ពីហ្នឹងមករហូត
So he was in that position until the end of the regime. That is, after that office was transferred to the control of the district.
អត់មាននរណាហ៊ានសិតលូកដៃ
And nobody would dare to interfere with the center when it was or when it already belonged to the district.
My question was, when did P take charge of the Krang Tachang Center? In which year, if you remember?
It was in mid-1973, so it was from the mid-1973 onwards.
ពេលយកពីឃុំ
And it happened when the area was taken from the commune to be under the supervision of the district.
Mais nous sommes
But we agree that Chim, who had not earned the trust of the revolution had no kind of supervisory functions at Krang Thach Chang. Is that what you want to say?
No, I did not mean that. Krang Thach Chang was a separate matter, but when you talk about the promotion for Chim, that was another matter. Because at that time, the plan was to promote the peoples into the assembly. And for those people who had tendencies, would not be considered. And that's because of this so-called tainted background.
ខ្ញុំចង់និយាយសម្ដៅចឹងទេ
And that's what I meant, and I did not refer to the Krang Thach Chang Center. As for Krang Thach Chang, those people who controlled had to know everything as the number of prisoners who were sent in and those who were sent out, for instance.
And when you're speaking about those who were controlling the center, are you speaking about Pi An and Duc, or are you also speaking about Chim?
What I want to say was that they were in the supervisory role. However, some of them were in a direct supervision, while others was indirect. But in short, they all had to know about what happened in the center.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no further questions for the witness.
President, thank you. And Mr. Panchen, I have a few questions that I'd like to get clarification from you. You responded to one of the questions by the Defense Counsel that you never saw Tamok to come and inspect Krang Thach Chang Security Center. Did you refer to the time period that you were working in the Commune Committee, that is prior to 1975? Or do you also refer to the time period of the Democratic Cambodia regime, that is from 17 April 1975 to the 6th January 1979? Answer. I refer to the time period prior to 1975, that is when I was with the Commune Committee and that I was part of the Refugee Committee. And I knew about the Tamok, that's why I could say about that. President, thank you. That is clear now. And this morning, the National Council for Nuon Chea asked you a question that during the time that you were during the Democratic Cambodia regime, in your leadership role, did you ever receive any instruction from the upper echelon to smash Cham or Vietnamese minority, including the brief period that you were in a leadership role? And you responded that you learned of that information through the announcement, but you yourself did not know anything about that because you were stationed at one location. But the information was disseminated to people to understand. Am I correct in saying that? Answer: Yes, that is correct, Mr. President. President, my next question is the following. Through the information that you said you learned through the announcement, what means of announcements that you learned such information? Answer: The announcement was made through the various meetings at the units or at the commune or district levels. And that kind of information was open. President, and did you know who actually made that policy towards the Cham, the Vietnamese, or the Cambodia Crown people? Answer: Yes, I recall them. I knew them. I knew their names, but they all disappeared. President, can you tell the chamber the names and their positions at the time? Answer: It was the district secretary, Nhiều. He was the first secretary. Questioned. And that announcement of policy against the Cham, Vietnamese, and Cambodia Crown people, was it announced frequently by the district secretary? Answer: I only heard about it once. President, thank you. And the hearing today comes to a conclusion. President, I noticed that Councillor Kong Sam On is on his feet. You may proceed, Kong Sam On. Mr. President, in relation to your question that you just asked the witness, I'd like to put a question or two to the witness.
Counsel, I would like you to confirm more clearly about the meetings that you said the meeting was about the politics and toward the Vietnamese and the Cham people. Was that policy reflect the hatred toward the Cham or the Vietnamese? Which of the two? Could you please confirm for the court? Answer: I can tell you briefly about just the announcement I heard. The purpose was to have that policy followed by the lower level cadres. Counsel, was it a policy toward any hatred for Vietnamese people or for the Cham people? Which of the two? Answer: I heard only the policies toward the Vietnamese people. Counsel, thank you. Based on that announcement, was it toward the Vietnamese troop or generally to the Vietnamese people? Answer: I'm not sure, and I don't know whether it targeted at the Vietnamese troops or the Vietnamese people, but it was generally toward Vietnam. Counsel, when was it that you heard that announcement? Answer: I heard this announcement during 1975, and I did hear it before 1975, because as I told the trial chamber earlier and also to the investigator from the OCIJ, and I indicated the enemies of the revolution, including CIA agent, KGB agent, the Khmer, Red Khmer, and the White Khmer. And White Khmer referred to the Vietnamese people. The announcement was done a long time ago, but what I refer a while ago was happening in 1975. It was not only in Tram Kok, but it was also announced in other districts of the province. So this is what I heard during the meeting. Counsel, could you be more detailed? You said that the White Khmer referred to the Vietnamese people. How did you know that? Can you elaborate a bit further? Answer, it was printed in the educational materials, so that's what I read from. So I don't understand the detail of that. Counsel, you said they educated people. So who, when you refer to they? Answer, the upper echelon, the Angka. It was the only Angka and the upper echelon. Counsel, could you be more specific whether the village chief as Angka or the commune committee? So could you also indicate or tell the name in case you remember as to whether they die or they're still alive? Answer, at Tram Kok district, I heard from Nhieu. At Kampong Speu, I heard the announcement made by another person. I heard that including in the meeting of the district and also the provincial level meeting. Counsel, could you confirm again about the DK policies during the regime towards the Vietnam people? Was it targeted at the Vietnamese troop or mainly the politics toward the ordinary Vietnamese people? The main focus, or who were the main target of that policy that you heard it was announced? President, this question seems to be repetitive. Counsel, I think your question is repetitive. Mr. Witness, please do not respond to this question. Counsel, Mr. President, because the witness failed to mention clearly to us, so that's why I ask again the term people, politics, and Vietnamese and troop. President, the witness should not answer this question because it is repetitive. Counsel, I have another question. This morning I heard that you refer to your adopted daughter who is a Vietnamese. My question is as follows. When you receive a policy targeted at Vietnamese, what was understanding toward your adoptive daughter? Answer, I would like to divide it into two types. The instruction was to hate the Vietnamese, but personally I have a sympathy toward an orphan. If I fail to do that, no one would do that. The person will die. So Based on my sympathy and pity on her, I adopted her. So I was waiting for any criticism, but there was none, and then I could adopt her, and she could survive, and she had 9 children. She is still living in Takeo province. Council, thank you. This morning you said about the conduct of the people in your area and your village towards your adopted daughter, that they don't feel unhappy or hate her. My question is like this: how about the leadership or the cadre in your commune or your village? What were their feelings toward your adoption of a Vietnamese daughter? Answer: as I told you a while ago, I already mentioned this. Based on the objective understanding toward me, I didn't hear anything criticizing me for doing that. And she could survive, and she is still living until today. And another family of the Vietnamese who could survive also, he is a seamstress, and she is also survived the regime, and there was no discrimination against her. She is a real Vietnamese, but that's all I can tell you. Council, thank you, Mr. President. I have no further question to put for this question. President, it is now time for adjourn the hearing for today, and the hearing will resume on the afternoon of the 3rd of March 2015, and it will start from 1:30 in the afternoon, and the trial chamber will hear the witness 2 TCW 847, and the parties are invited to attend the hearing on that day. The chamber thanks you, Mr. Panchen, who came to testify before the chamber for 1 day and a half. Your testimony is contributing to ascertaining the truth. Your testimony has come to a conclusion, and the chamber excuse you, and you can go to your residence and to your chosen destination, and please have a safe trip back. And thank you for duty counsel. Court officer is instructed to work with the witness support section to facilitate Mr. Panchen transport home or to any other destination he would like to go. Security personnel are now instructed to bring the accused Nguyen Chien Khieu Sampon back to the detention facility and bring them back to the courtroom on Tuesday, the 3rd of March 2015, before 1:30 in the afternoon. The court is adjourned.